Hello. I am very pleased to be able to present a puzzle I've been working on for a very long time. This is the 6th version of the puzzle that I've printed, and I call it the Junior Heli-Skewb. It gets its name from 3 other puzzles that it inherits moves from. The first move is based on the word junior from Rubik's Junior Cube, which is a 2x2x2 deep cut face turning cube, just the normal little junior cube that you can find at Toys R Us. In addition to these moves, I'll go all the way back around just to keep it solved at all times. It also has helicopter cube style moves. There we go. So you can see that's a shallow cut edge there. And then Skewb, of course, refers to deep cut corner turning cube moves, like so. The geometry required to create this puzzle ends up requiring a lot of cuts on the pieces that create acute angles, which leads to a puzzle that wants to have the pieces sliding past each other and feels very squishy. So to combat that issue on this puzzle, I've created magnetic stops. So the individual pieces on the internal layers have magnets so that as they get close to completing a turn, they'll kind of snap into place. So if you kind of watch this and listen, you can see that puzzle, as I complete a Skewb turn, has a satisfying click to help complete that turn and keep all those pieces perfectly aligned. And while that click is satisfying, it does come at the cost of starting a turn. You have to convince the puzzle to leave that stop behind. And the other puzzle that has magnetic stops is the 2x2x2 mechanism. It does as well. I'd like to make a video that talks about the mechanism at some point, but for now I'll just say that the most internal mechanism is a Skewb with a core about that big. It uses magnetic stops and a normal shells mechanism. And then the second layer out is the 2x2x2 mechanism, which also uses magnetic stops and is implemented using a Rubik's Revenge style, the classic Rubik's Revenge style mechanism of pieces running in tracks. The third mechanism is a square one mechanism, and that's used to create centers for the helicopter cube layer, which is a 4th layer that uses shells to make the helicopter cube moves work. One move that's a little bit fun is if I turn the helicopter cube to about right there, and then if I can get past the magnetic stops, you can see I can do an interesting little form of jumbling there, which is I guess we should put some thought into whether that's something that you could do on a normal helicopter cube or not. I'll put this back. All right. So because I have to fight the magnetic stops to start turns, when I'm fighting the magnets, the squishiness does come back into play a little bit and create a little bit of a challenge just getting the turns to start at times. And because of all that, I think I would call movement on this puzzle fair or poor to fair, but I'm still thrilled to have a puzzle that works and does implement and allow these 3 types of moves separately, which is a deep cut face turning cube, a deep cut corner turning cube, and a shallow cut edge turning cube. Thank you very much for watching. All right, I thought I would take a minute now and see if we can take this puzzle apart to show the mechanism. So I think I'm going to try to pop out one of the Skewb squares here, if I can do so. Looks like that worked. Okay, so if you look in that hole now, and maybe I'll just go ahead and do I dare? No, I'm not going to do it. I was going to align it again, but I think I'll just leave it where it is because it works best as a whole. You can look inside here though, and you can see some of those layers that I was talking about in the other video. The deepest layer is the Skewb layer here. I've got an airplane going by, there's an airport nearby. And that Skewb layer has these magnetic stops that force the puzzle to align, and that turns out to be very, very important. These holes here are the tracks for the Rubik's revenge mechanism. And then these little hooks that you see here, that's the square one mechanism, the third mechanism, I guess, that helps to create these centers for the helicopter cube. And those centers are now made out of, I think, 6 pieces. And then those centers are the kind of the umbrella over the fourth layer, which is the helicopter cube shells mechanism. Okay, so just to get into some of this a little more specifically. So here's one of the faces, made up of these 4 helicopter cube pieces. And if I slide this off, you can see that this is a Skewb square capped with a piece of a Rubik's revenge mechanism. So these tracks allow these feet to slide around just like they would on an old style Rubik's revenge. And not only can they slide around, but they're also able to rotate like so. And that turns out to be important if that's the face you're turning. You want that face to be able to turn in place as well. So if I snap one of these off, and you can even see just by doing that, you can get an idea of how these magnetic stops come into play. But one of these pieces is going to include, on either side here, these are slivers or shards of helicopter cube centers. So here's where one center would be housed, and this is just one little shard that rotates around that track there, like a square one mechanism, and then that forms the basis for a shells mechanism holding in these normal helicopter cube pieces. So you can look at that piece and see it looks very familiar. It looks like a normal helicopter cube piece. And just to expand our investigation here a little bit to the corner, slide out a corner. So here you can see that's a Skewb corner. And then if I slide that off, just like this, it has Rubik's revenge mechanism tracks on top of there. And you can see, without the mechanism, these things will just snap right together, which is kind of nice. Okay, and then this is the foot that rides within the Rubik's revenge mechanism. And now we get into the square one. I'm just gonna snap out some pieces here. First of all, before I get to the square one, I'll just point out this corner piece is just a normal shells helicopter cube piece. So you can see it's got the just the normal shells foot there. As far as it's concerned, it's just a shells mechanism. Take some of these pieces out. These are shards that really only exist because we're chopping the puzzle not only with the helicopter cube chops, but with the Skewb chops as well. Now, if I look at one of these, you've got these little witch hat pieces, and they slide in these tracks, which are like square one tracks, and they create these ridges here, which are actually just the shells mechanism centers. So to just see if I can show that, maybe I'll take one of these. All right, this is a humbling little moment, but hopefully it's been worth it, because now you can see these pieces all come together around that square one mechanism, forming a shells center, which should look familiar if you've ever seen the inside of a helicopter cube. That's just the center of a normal helicopter cube, which would then support this guy like that, and over on the corner, the little nub there would support the corner like so. So I hope this has been informative. Okay, there's that, and do this again. this goes on here. That's the revenge. Okay, now we'll start by placing this corner in. There we go. There's that. Alignment is so important on these. There we go. All right. Well, I hope you enjoyed seeing how the inside of this one came together. Thanks for watching.